Okay, what is a focus group? Well, it's quite interesting because I was actually quite interested. I've been talking about focus groups for years in various projects, but I never actually ever looked up at what a definition of what a focus group might be. But this is from, I think it says on the bottom of the slide, the University of somewhere in America, who has a very good website of different methods in education and social sciences, and it's very well thought out. So first of all, small group discussion, and it's guided by a trained leader, frightening. So basically, we're trying to find out people's views. It's a discussion to find out people's views, and it relies on guiding those through, and there's various methodologies for it. Now, what's the difference then between focus groups and other groups? Because we're all parts of lots of groups. I mean, the main difference is firstly, it's a specific focused discussion topic. It's not a general discussion. We're looking at a topic, and that topic needs to be honed in rather than starting going out in all kinds of different directions. Secondly, a facilitator, and thirdly, it's working out the composition to create a non-threatening environment where people talk openly. So we're actually worrying that people are participating in it, rather than, say, with the Zoom webinars that we all go to these days, which have got 50 or 60 people, and no one's really worried. There's someone doing a presentation and people are invited to ask questions. We're now looking at how we can actually actively get people to express their opinions. Well, why have them? Because they're spoken, open-ended, broad and qualitative. I mean, this is obviously written by an enthusiast for focus groups. They should have more depth, nuance and variety. In some circumstances, I'd say that's true. In some I've been involved in, they don't, actually. Group interactions and non-verbal communications can be observed. So, at least in theory, focus groups get closer to what people are really thinking and feeling. University of Kansas, this comes from, yeah. Even though the responses may be hard or impossible to score on the scale. So, don't have a focus group if you're trying to count things. Don't have a focus group if you're trying to say 50% support, 50% don't. What you're really trying to get at is not score things, but find the variety of different people's opinions and what they're interested in. And it's said because they're expressive, they can yield a lot of information in a relatively short time, which means focus groups are better than questionnaires where you're sending out blankly, and are better than other types of meetings, especially with some groups that you're trying to engage. So why do we want this? There are three questions I think we need to ask ourselves. And I suppose this is probably the most important slide I've got. Why do we want to contact focus groups? Who do we want to involve? And what do we hope to learn from those focus groups? And I'm not sure that the answers to those questions are entirely clear from what we said in the bid, because what I'm finding in the bid is we're talking about some things we're very interested in, and I love this stuff. I absolutely love different theories of adult learning, but I'm not sure that the people we're wanting to involve are actually people who are going to be commenting on or having an opinion on pedagogical theory for adult learning. So I think we may have some thinking clarification to do. Right, so this is what we said. We're developing this model. We're addressing expert practitioners and, on the other hand, adult learners from difficult to reach target groups. Now, our assumption is if the adult learners have the chance to get involved in their own learning, they feel empowered and they develop ownership of their own learning, that's fine. But I don't see how in the project we're going to test that assumption. because none of the learners we engage with, assuming we can engage with learners from those groups, are going to have the opportunity during the project time to become involved in their own learning in a meaningful way, and therefore develop ownership of their own learning. So the hypothesis can't be tested through the time period and the lifetime of the project. So the focus groups are supposed to be with participants from our target groups. And every partner, one focus group, 8 to 10 participants. Here's the initial questions which we said. What's your motivation to participate in a learning activity? Well, I can see that as a question we could ask, yeah? I think it was certainly, if we could get a group of 8 to 10, we can ask it. But have you been experienced in being involved in the design of a learning outcomes assessment of a learning activity? I don't think we're going to get far with that question where the target group. For one thing, they're not going to understand the question, but another point is they're not going to be involved, especially in very formal adult learning settings. And one of the contradictions I have from the Valencian setting is that we do have some highly innovative and participative adult education, but that's taking place in the private sector and isn't primarily orientated towards refugees. On the other hand, we have adult education for refugees, but it's highly structured and not in the least bit, I would say, participated. The outcomes are predefined and the assessments are predefined, so there's a problem. And once more, what's the prerequisites from your side to participate in such a process? I'm not sure people are going, or the last question, designing outcomes assessment, that people are going to be able to participate. So if we look at the next slide, here's where I think the problems lie. Well, obviously COVID-19. Will the local government allow us even into classrooms? I think is tricky. So we have a question of access to groups. Equally, if we said we're doing this online, that would mean that people have access to all people have access directly to computers, and we're given the time to spend with them during their formal lesson using the computers. Thirdly, I think there's a lot of issues of power relations here, and I think it needs thinking through the role of our project, but the role of adult education teachers, the role of adult education managers, and the position of refugees. I don't think the power is equal in any way. The question I've already raised, the understanding of research aims by participants and other actors. And finally, the lack of possibility of change due to centralized curriculum and processes. So those, I think, are the barriers to achieve the kind of education which Natasha outlined and which I totally support in her theoretical presentation, which I actually thought was extremely good. Here's a few ideas I've got on the next slide for what we might have to think about or want to think about. Here's some possible questions. How did you find out about the course? Is this your first course? What did you expect to learn? Is the course meeting your expectation? What would you like to change? Do you have to do an exam? And if so, would you prefer not to? I mean, that's the kind of questions I think we could ask. We probably could get something from, and hopefully people would understand. But I mean, that's just put up as a first selection for people to try. Probably the best way to do this would be through mobile phone, if we could. Whether we can get access to people, it is possible. They have a WhatsApp group. We do know that mobile phone ownership among refugee groups is exceptionally high, and these questions might lend themselves to mobile phones. I don't know. Yeah, broaden the range of participants. For instance, my thinking is that in Valencia, we would learn far more from the private sector and innovative courses which are being held outdoors because of the COVID crisis. And I tell you, they're the same park as I walk our dog, and there are so many, it's almost unbelievable now. But I think we'd probably learn more from those people. So think again who exactly our target groups are, and possibly broadening the range of participants, and also recognizing the limitations of COVID. Other methods, research methods, were surveys, and Paul's going to talk about this in a moment, so I'm not going to. I anticipated he'd talk about it, so I say nothing more than surveys. Interviews, pretty common if we can get interviews. I think SWOT analysis could be interesting, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, and I'm particularly interested in the position of refugees related to SWOT. Data analysis, can we gain any data? If we can gain some data on adult education, it will be interested. And some literature studies. A very final thing, I am very aware that adult education practices vary in countries. So Natasha said, well, of course, we all have contracts. Well, no, we don't have contracts. We don't have learning contracts in the UK, and we don't have learning contracts in Spain. So there is a lot of variation. In Greece, it's interesting, they do. And maybe that by looking at those differences in practices in different countries, that we can actually put forward some interesting ideas. I do think that negotiated learning contracts are a bloody good idea. It may be we can try and say, well, look, this happens in Greece. Do you think you in Spain should be thinking about it? Anyway, that's it. That's as far as I got at the moment. Thank you for all sitting so attentively and listening carefully, watching my presentation, I hope.
Thank you, Graham. One comment about the learning contract. I didn't say that it's a common practice. I said that it's a practice. It's an observable practice. It's not, I don't know if it's common, but there is. That's why I said before that we should discuss the focus group with the survey in relation, because the survey targets the other part, the trainers, the teachers, and it's going to be a survey. So we have this method to cover the side of the teachers, the side of the organizers, of adult education providers. However, I would like to have the voice of the target group, even if it's not the migrants and the refugees, even if it's learners, adult learners in other contexts. I think that it's important to see their voice, and I agree, Graham, that the questions that we put are, I don't know if we wrote these questions in the application. Anyway, they have to be somehow simple questions, and so I don't have any problem to start with this question. I would add only one question about participation in the design. I don't know how we will phrase it to be understandable, but I don't know. We need to put one question that is relevant to their participation in the beginning of the process. How can we proceed with that?
I don't see how you do that question, since the courses are set up and they're invited to apply or not. There is no facility for them to be involved in the design.
I don't know, in Greece we have the second chance schools, and in the second chance schools the curriculum is not strict as it is in the school education. They have some broad learning outcomes, but here the teacher can select specific learning outcomes in specific sessions with the learners. I know that they do that, and they have, for example, in second chance schools, they are based on the same curriculum, but from school to school, they do totally different things. And we have such schools, for example, in communities with Roma people. We have such schools in prisons. And I know from the teachers, from the educators, not from the participants. I know that they discuss with the participants what they will do in the next 3 months, for example. They select the topics, they select the projects that they will do. But I'm not talking about professional courses here. I'm talking about secondary level education.
Well, that would be, in Spain, that would be adult education. There's also second chance schooling, I think, still running in Valencia.
Yes.
Yeah. And that would be interesting to know what the practice is. We would be very interested in finding that out. But once more, as Anna says, the situation of access may be very tricky with the semi-lockdown we have at the moment.
Yeah.
Yes, the situation is the same here, and I'm thinking that for us, if we do a focus group, it will be online for sure. Skype or I don't know, probably Skype or something easy to use, Zoom. Or if we cannot gather 8 people together, it could be smaller groups or maybe interviews. That's the last thing to do. To have individual discussions with people. You lose the interaction that you have in the focus group, but it's the best alternative.
See, the problem is the social distancing, isn't it? If they let us into any face-to-face meeting, they're going to break the social distancing. But yeah, I agree. I think we just have to be as creative as we can.
So can I throw in one question there? Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, hearing you phone call.
Yeah. No, just in relation to how we are defining, if you like, the parameters as to what constitutes a course. Like, for example, if I'm looking at various different learning opportunities or learning structures that are happening with different traveler groups, it could be a men's group that are organizing activities, but there isn't necessarily, or there isn't always, an assessment dimension to it. Is that, I mean, there's a lot of learning happening, and there's that if we were to put an assessment structure in place on it, you would find a lot of really interesting outcomes, but there may not already be those structures. So is that outside of what we're looking at, or
no? I think the inside. I think that where you've got that first question on the screen now, how did you find out about the course? I wrote that, and it's wrong. I think it should say, how did you find out about the activity stroke course? And the point is, we're asking if they have an exam or test, yes or no. And one of my criticisms of some practices in adult education in some countries is that it's the fact that they do have to do an exam or test puts off participation from some people who had a bad time in education before. So I'm by no means saying that they should have to.
I mean, the flip side of that is where, if you like, the formal / informal settings where adult education is happening, where there are structures. I was looking at specifically some examples in Ireland where we have kind of accredited courses that are about community leadership, they're about community development. But if we were to really analyze them, they're very structured in a traditional sense. So even though you're studying community leadership, you're still producing whatever, some type of portfolio of assessments that fits within a more kind of traditional setting. And by no means the participants would have been involved in the design or the follow-up. So it's a tricky one, because if we focus on the very informal learning spaces where the most disadvantaged groups are involved, we're in some ways letting off the hook the ones that probably should be doing it, like in those more like kind of typical learning environments.
For me, the non-formal learning is a very strong part of adult learning. It's not. It's part of adult learning, and especially, I mean, if we look at target groups like that we have settled migrants and whatever, they participate in language courses, English or Greek or I don't know, Spanish, the host country, and professional skills development to do a specific occupation or digital or like that. And this is something that Graham also mentioned, that there is a little point of intervention. There is a little point of expressing your own needs and your own expectations. More free studies, more non-formal settings is I think we should go and examine mostly. Although the second chance schools is a very, very formal setting, but it's part of the liberal education. It has nothing to do with specific skills, specific. It's more like key competencies. So there is a great flexibility in the design of learning paths, and this is something that we can derive good practices. So Paul, I would not exclude non-formal, even if it's not called course, it's called I don't know, event or group or whatever it's called, community work.
Great, but my second point there was that I would still like us not to only look at the non-formal spaces, if you like, because if you like, there's a Venn diagram somehow or other where our target groups are also participating in more formal learning environments, or even more informal if they're in community settings, but the facilitators and those that are delivering those types of courses, whether it's about community leadership or whether it's about community development or whatever the focus might be, it could be about I don't know, it could be about hairdressing, whatever it is, but if there are, they are also the courses where we should be trying to in some way have an influence, where those learners should ideally have some power in terms of when it comes to the design and delivery and the follow-up. So if we only look at the non-formal spaces, it's not that it's easy, but it's easier than to have to challenge those other formal spaces. So maybe we should look at a balance between, if once we define those different types of learning environments that we get in the survey and in our focus groups, we get a balance between them. Does that sound okay, Graham? Or I mean, it's.
Yeah, I mean, I'm absolutely in favour of it, but my only proviso is it's going to be very, very difficult because of COVID.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I can't see us getting, we would try, but I can't see us getting access either online or face-to-face to the government adult education courses. I don't think that's going to happen. So the informal courses is bit easier because they're all held next door to the park, so they can't stop us getting access to them if we go to the park. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
In any case, I think we need to have some degree of flexibility because we are 5 countries, and maybe Thomas and Radolf will need to go to a more to something related to the municipality. Cyprian can do something related with the university and I don't know, lifelong learning lessons that they have. So we can cover different settings. It's okay to cover different contexts and different levels of formality.
I think that's a good approach. And don't forget, we're not exactly the richest or most highly funded project.
No, no, that's that's true. And having said that, it's something that we need to do quickly, easy, and
Yes.
to get it done.
Exactly.
So we need to be pragmatic and anyway, the aim is the aim of the research of both tools, focus group and survey, is to find out some practices. So to somehow identify 5, 10 practices and then produce a model. So we can use also, Graham, we can also use desk research. We can identify in the literature practices. Okay. How do you want to proceed, Graham? Are you going to write down a document like 1 page?
I can write all this in a 1-page document, but what I'd like you all to do is to if you could distribute those slides out to everybody, or I can. You've got those possible questions to learners. Can we come back to that tomorrow and see? You've got overnight to think about other questions you might want to ask. Yeah.
Okay, so you want to postpone to discuss again the questions tomorrow?
Just 5 minutes more tomorrow, seeing if anyone's got any more ideas, yeah?
Okay.
And
Okay,
then
so
I will that as a 1-page report, yeah?
are you going to, yes, not a report, like some common understanding so that we can use to approach our target groups and do the work?
No problem.
And then I would suggest that okay, we should aim to have a focus group, but as this may not be possible, then provide flexibility to have online focus group or smaller groups of people, or at last, as a last resort, interviews, to replace this with interviews.
Exactly.
So that we'll have the flexibility we need to do the task.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I think that's entirely reasonable given the circumstances.